a Ghanatube so Elsian form of dot for slow message so Emma aqua bium. Matna CD na a rear in some ahudo and coso ewo or my ganim na enzem parano main train so and famamono. Yabaka could see in some ahudo via a coso ewo or my ganim.
Liberia is a long-term friend of the United States, and we believe in your policy of making America great again. And we also go a long way with you in your diplomacy that has to do with economic development and commercial friendship. And we just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. It's such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well.
So that was the U.S. President Donald Trump in that conversation with some five heads of some 5 African countries. Now, U.S. and African relations is being redefined or are being redefined from aid to trade. U.S. President Donald Trump has met with leaders from Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal, where the discussions focused on business opportunities, but also on, to the surprise of Donald Trump, as you heard there, that the president of Liberia speaks good English. Okay, let me bring in Dr. Arthur Kennedy. Doc, let's now look at the U.S. visa and immigration issues that we now have. You are there. What do you really think is happening with the new direction that they want to take in terms of the visa issuance to Ghanaians?
It is a global thing. The American election last year was fought on immigration and the loose borders and the fact that the previous government was too lax in enforcing immigration rules. So I think that there is a general turn to the other direction, more deportations, more visa enforcement, and those kinds of things. So I think that Africa has been swept up in this. I have a feeling that part of it is Mr. Trump trying to fulfill what he calls his electoral promise. And I think that with time, these things would, in effect, quiet down a little bit. I also think that particularly after the U.S. midterm elections, other voices will come before in the legislature and they will apply different kinds of pressure. So I expect that as in his first term, as time goes on, he will be preoccupied with other things and some of these things will quieten down.
Must it be a worry to us that they are giving us 3-month visa on a single entry?
Well, it must be a worry, but I think a lot of other countries are suffering the same fate. I think that the best way to counteract that is quiet diplomacy, look for friends in the administration and quietly make our case. And some of these things, if we make our case effectively, might be changed without a lot of noise and fanfare.
Do you see us doing that? Doc talks about quiet diplomacy. Do you see us doing that?
Well, I think that is and I agree with Dr. Kennedy. I think it's the right thing to do. You need to understand Trump to know how to deal with him. He is somebody that always wants that auspicious moment to pitch and to project himself. You don't want to engage him through public diplomacy because he must always be seen as the winner in such endeavors. So you are better off dealing with him, doing things quietly. And I think that doing that moves beyond engaging, for instance, the U.S. ambassador to Ghana. We need a state-to-state, level kind of engagement.
So not engaging with the ambassador?
No. I think this moves beyond that. This means that meeting with the Secretary of State or the State Department in the U.S. and trashing out the very differences that they think. Because for me, I think that is a global immigration realignment policies that the U.S. is embarking. But I think that ours is more of a sanction because we are part of those 38 countries that were supposedly to be banned in terms of issuing US visas.
Yeah.
And I think a softer version of what is what has been given to us.
Issued, yeah.
And they outlined certain very crucial things, and that forms part of Trump's immigration policy. The fact that there's a number of visa overstays among Ghanaians.
Yeah.
The fact that the government is failing to provide what they call travel document or national document to deported people so they can be brought back to the country. And the lack of a database concerning Ghanaian immigrants as to who has a crime background or could pose a threat to the national security of US. And so once these three things and other things have been addressed, there's likely to be a renegotiation of this visa ban. And so I think that this is where we need the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Samuel Kudjatu, to engage the US government at that very high level to see how they can resolve these differences. Hopefully, we'll be taken out of these, new arrangements concerning the 3-month visa issuance and a single entry. I have strong conviction that because of the blowback is having, especially within the business community, some pressure will be put on the government for them to do the needful to see if they can, rearrange, go back or reverse to the previous.
If you say business community, American business community or Ghanaian community?
I mean the Ghanaian business community, because it has a lot of implications. There are people that probably travel to the US like 2 or 3 times in a month because of emergency business arrangement. Now they cannot do that again, and they are likely to lose, business opportunities that have concomitant financial implications. Because right now, if you travel back within a space of 3 months, what it means is that you have to reapply, and the money is the problem, but it's not really the problem. Even getting a date. I hear people are getting dates in 2026 and 2027. So you can't make emergency business travels to the US if something has to be done. So I think that these are the economic, the monetary part, but the non-monetary part is the people will not have that luxury of emergency travels and other issues. So I think that maybe this puts some pressure on the government to want to renegotiate these terms of visa reciprocity. And I want to mention something. There was this idea that it's because Ghana was not holding the side of the bargain when it came to visa reciprocity, that we were not giving them 5 years and multiple entry. That is what led to these.
Yeah.
But I think the minister has given ample evidence to show that this has never been the case. We have, between 2024 and now, the government of Ghana has issued over 40,000 visas. Almost 30,000 of them has been multiple entry, some 5 years and some, so that is not the caveat, the condition under which this visa reciprocity order was given. But the fact that it is a global immigration realignment that the Trump policy is seeking to implement, and Ghana has bore a branch of it. So I think that if the minister or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is able to address some of the grievances or the need of the US government, I think that there's a fair chance that some of these visa arrangements, will be reversed to its initial status.
Doc, they also cited the lack of Ghanaians to return home. Help us. How can we address this? That Ghanaians will go and be willing to return to Ghana.
Well, I mean, obviously, those are global issues about, for example, when people finish their courses of study, a lot of people come here to study, feeling that when they go to Ghana, there will be jobs to do. When those things happen, just like Mr. Mreku points out, some quiet diplomacy will kind of change some of these restrictions. But those are long-term effects, and it is very difficult for the government, in effect, to determine the actions of individuals.
Okay, so it means that as for that, there's nothing government can do about it. We just have to pray that individuals will be willing to return.
Oh, better economic prospects. If our economic prospects are good, almost invariably, whenever things are better at home, more people head home. So that should help.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, for joining us here. Dr. Kwabena Arthur Kennedy is a physician and a political activist. He once ran for the flag bearership of the New Patriotic Party. Now let's talk about this and what is the new, this new term mean for African countries? Because when you read what transcribed, the African president were trying to pitch to the American president and his people what they do have. I mean, someone will say we have resources like that, we have minerals, and I'm inviting American investors to invest in it. One president even went to the extent of saying that, well, if you don't, other countries will come, so you have to come and invest in it. But let me start with you, and I've been joined by Nanaya Miraku. He's an international relations analyst. We also have Dr. John Arthur Kennedy with us on the line to help us, do this. Dr. Kwabena Arthur Kennedy is still with us on the line. But Kwabena, if you listen to the U.S. president, what readily comes to mind as to what he really wants to do?
Well, good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers. Before I start with the conversation, I would like to just have a go at the unfortunate news that we had yesterday, that the former president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, is passed on. I think that he was a political stalwart, and he contributed his bit to the story of democratic consolidation and growth to the African continent. At least we can say that he was the first candidate to usher an opposition party to incumbency in Nigeria's political history, the APC that Bola Tinubu belongs to. So I think that it was an unfortunate news that we had, yesterday. Now, since we are talking about African president, I thought it was to just slip that in.
Sure.
But going forward, wow. It was an interesting development in the Oval Office. Quite a few of these developments have occurred, during President Trump's presidency. I think that what happened between President Trump and the 5 African states, for me, is a harbinger of things to come. It's an attempt by the U.S. government to set the terms of engagement with African leaders going forward. This is a administration that wants to deal with state-to-state Africa relations, and I think that going for these 5 countries is an attempt to create a certain environment, to send a message that this is how going forward the U.S. administration wants to deal with Africa. It is a transformation from aid to trade, from assistance to development, or from assistance to commercial relations. And so it doesn't come to me as a surprise that if you look at the country that he picked, these are countries on the western coast. They might be smaller countries in terms of their commercial values, because if you compare if you add the 5 countries together, their annual GDP is $75 billion. You are not seeing the economic giants on the continent amongst them, but there's a reason why the United States wants to engage with them. It's from a geostrategic point of view, a geopolitical point of view, and indeed natural resources. If you look at these countries, 5 of them: Mauritania, Senegal, Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, and then I think Liberia, 5 of them. These are countries that are well endowed with what you call rare earth minerals, very, very rich. And the United States is seeking to reduce its dependency on China, because China has most of these, rare earth minerals. But China uses this as a leverage in dealing with the U.S. So when the United States is able to sidestep China in the near future, and is able to acquire these natural resources from other places, it's a boost to the U.S. geopolitical stance. And if you look at, again, Mauritania, for instance, Mauritania lies on the Atlantic coast. It serves as a bridge between North Africa and then Sub-Saharan Africa. It's in the U.S. immigration policy to have Mauritania on its side, because I think from 2022 to 2025, 20,000 Mauritanians, crossed through Nicaragua, went to the U.S. southern borders. So there is a number of geostrategic relevance in terms of where they are located, in terms of the natural resources they are able to offer.
And I also read that they have a coastline which spans 500 kilometers.
Yes, they have a very impressive coastline, particularly Gabon.
And that U.S. would want to set up a base to even deal with
maritime counter-terrorism, piracy. And Gabon is. We must understand that Western influence across the Sahel is shrinking, especially with this, French waning popularity in that area. U.S.'s drone base in Niger, Agadez, is being closed down. So the United States is also seeking other places where it can establish these military bases. They have like 13 permanent ones, 17 temporary military bases. So an arrangement with Gabon, and Gabon is also very, very rich in manganese. I hear that it has a quota of the global reserve of manganese supplies, and supplies 22% of the total manganese that China needs. And so these are very, very resource-rich countries that having them, to the side of the U.S. is very, very, very important. On the side of the African leaders, they are also seeking for investment, foreign direct investment. adding value to their natural resource, ultimately creating employment for their people, so they don't harbor this sentiment of wanting to travel away to make it. So I think that we are yet to see how these things will materialize.
Okay.
Because once again, we know Trump. Cyril Ramaphosa was in South Africa some few weeks ago, and we thought that because of what happened, it was going to transpire into certain practical evidence or dividends for South Africa. But we've seen that 30% of tariffs has been slapped on South Africa. So we don't really know what is going to happen. Nothing has come out concretely yet until we wait for a few days that is ahead of us.
On that note, let me take you to America and speak to someone who has lived there for quite a long time now and understands the system better. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, you could probably understand where Trump is taking this to. What do you think the direction of this will be from Donald Trump? And what must the African leaders be wary of on the new direction that this is taking?
I think that fundamentally Mr. Trump is transactional, and I think that we shouldn't read too much into the countries that were picked. I think they wanted to send the message that there is a new order. Africa has always had the big boys, Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia, which every American administration deals with. It seems that two things are going to change, not just the nature of the priorities of the administration, but also how the structure of the relationship goes. There is a gentleman is named as a senior advisor on Africa, Masad Boulos, and he is the person who helped negotiate the Rwanda DRC peace deal. Even though traditionally they've been an assistant secretary for African affairs and an African bureau, and the National Security Council and the Africa Command, it would seem that during the Trump administration, these ways of conducting policy will change a little bit, and Mr. Boulos, who is a good friend of Mr. Trump, will have a very big voice. And as to the fact that the emphasis has shifted from aid to trade, we hear this cyclically. The African Growth and Opportunities Act was also a shift from aid to trade. So these are cyclical, and I think that from my point of view, even though the Trump administration might prefer engaging with countries on an individual basis, I think Africa should learn from Europe. I think the European Union is conducting negotiations on behalf of all of them. That is more cost effective. That makes us have a unified voice. So I think while he is trying to deal with us as individual nations, it will be best to strengthen the African Union, give it resources and give it a voice so that it can deal with the Trump administration mostly on our behalf. I think that Mr. Mriku does make a very good point about security concerns by the Trump administration. The French interest in the Sahel is waning, and not only that, there are intractable conflicts on the African continent. Hopefully, Mr. Trump has solved the most important one, which is the DRC Rwanda one. We should also ask them to see if they can engage on Sudan, and then South Sudan, as well as other trouble spots, and then hopefully encourage his proclivities to peace. But I think that we're still waiting to see, and that there are still a few surprising turns that we should expect.
I was informed that was Samudi and my cotier a year in Seminole. I say, Moitié ama mo de comment me or commentation. When yes, I ever mammy, na making kai and mamma fefe aha. Ghanatube so be on subscribe ya. I was for to was and subscribe na face me a notification bell so send a behind same no me tuma na we nya in tempas. Remember we fin so say obel like na afin so was share in videos we our channel we so I was for her Ghanatube so wonderful snowy sisi ade makramo.